The National News Desk, locally covered, nationally connected.
So we're going to use that money to provide $12 billion in economic assistance to American farmers. $12 billion is a lot of money.
Agriculture assistance from the White House. Who exactly is in line to receive payment and when they can expect the financial help?
New Yorkers have a constitutional right to protest. And when I'm mayor, we will protect that right.
Weeks after coming together at the White House, New York City mayor-elect has stepped up his rhetoric to combat the president's actions in the Big Apple. What the White House is preparing to do if the new mayor doesn't back down. And then the Netflix deal for Warner Brothers Discovery might not be a done deal after all. The other media giant seeking a hostile takeover of the mega acquisition. Good evening. I'm Taylor Murray. Welcome to the National News Desk, America's News Now. President Donald Trump held a roundtable today on economic stimulus, focusing mainly on the heartland and helping our nation's farmers after they suffered from economic turmoil throughout the past year. Now the White House is offering a lifeline to help keep American farmers afloat. Our national correspondent, Kayla Gaskins, joins us with that story from the White House.
President Trump won rural America by 40 percentage points last November.
It's Christmas early for farmers.
But it's been a rough go recently. In the first half of 2025, farmers' bankruptcies were up 60% compared to the year before. The tariff war with China hit America's soybean industry especially hard. Aluminum and steel tariffs made farm equipment more expensive, and spats with Canada impacted the price of fertilizer.
The United States will be taking a small portion of the hundreds of billions of dollars we receive in tariffs. We are making a lot of money from countries that took advantage of us for years.
President Trump hoping $12 billion will ease the heavy burdens.
This relief will provide much needed certainty to farmers as they get this year's harvest to market and look ahead to next year's crops.
11 of the $12 billion will go towards propping up crops such as soybeans, rice, corn, wheat, and cotton. The remaining $1 billion will go towards fruits and vegetables, doled out based on market need. History has shown helping farmers with operating costs and market stability issues can help the American consumer by bringing down food prices. This comes as affordability continues to be a top concern for voters. The economic pinches Americans felt under former President Joe Biden partly paved the way for Trump's White House return. But Americans say the pain persists as inflation stays steady.
The Democrats caused the affordability problem, and we're the ones that are fixing it.
While Trump has secured numerous wins, his advisors urging him to better connect with Americans on the economy or risk being pummeled by the same political blows as his predecessor. President Trump will be in Pennsylvania Tuesday to give a speech on the economy. It will provide a glimpse on if the president will make any changes to his messaging on affordability. Reporting from the White House, I'm Kayla Gaskins for the National News Desk, America's News Now.
President Trump is calling for action after another stabbing on a light rail train in Charlotte, North Carolina on Friday, just months after Irina Zarutska was killed in a similar attack. Oscar Solorzano Garcia of Honduras is facing multiple charges in the stabbing of Kenyan Doby, who was hospitalized. DHS says Solorzano Garcia is an illegal alien who had been deported multiple times. He was in court today, and his next court date is December 30th. Well, 8 people are now facing charges for their alleged involvement in a series of drive-by shootings and other crimes in Colleton County, South Carolina. The group arrested featured 6 adults and 2 juveniles. Authorities say they recovered evidence connected to 10 separate incidents and believe they can link evidence to 6 more shootings. Also seized by police were 28 firearms, more than 1,500 rounds of ammunition, 4 stolen cars, as well as meth, marijuana, and cocaine. President Trump announcing new action this week to regulate artificial intelligence. It's a move big tech companies have been pushing for as they race to lead in AI, but others warn it could compromise safety. National correspondent Audra El-Nashar reports from Washington.
The evolution of artificial intelligence and its integration into our daily lives is happening so rapidly, Congress simply isn't keeping pace to regulate it, leaving a vacuum that states are trying to fill with a patchwork of laws on AI safety, copyright protection, and more. Monday morning, President Trump weighing in. There must be only one rulebook if we are going to continue to lead in AI. We are beating all countries at this point in the race, but that won't last long if we are going to have 50 states, many of them bad actors, involved in rules and the approval process. I will be doing a one-rule executive order this week. You can't expect a company to get 50 approvals every time they want to do something. The president is likely to find backers beyond his party. Last year, Colorado's Democratic Governor Jared Polis signed first in the nation comprehensive AI regulation.
To do this right, we really need federal action to establish a national regulatory framework for AI to preempt the states and avoid a patchwork of state laws that would deter from innovation and make it less efficient for consumers as well.
It's something tech companies want too.
In the absence of a federal standard, the most aggressive state standard is going to become a de facto national standard. The problem is that Congress really hasn't moved any kind of bill.
Just last month, while crafting must-pass defense legislation, House Republicans considered including a provision to preempt state AI laws. Ultimately, it was dropped, but it ruffled the feathers of some state leaders who've enacted AI laws, like Florida Governor Ron DeSantis.
A lot of these guys ran on limiting the federal government and having, allowing states to be able to pursue policies. This is just basically putting every state in handcuffs, not letting them do anything.
Now, a lack of comprehensive regulation does not mean AI companies are free to do whatever they want. In fact, in the past week, the New York Times and Chicago Tribune filed lawsuits against the AI search engine Perplexity, claiming copyright infringement.
And Audra, the president's executive order would mean federal regulations override state law. So where does Congress stand in actually passing laws like this?
Well, that's where the intent of this order is far easier said than done. Congress hasn't even gotten close to passing AI regulation. In fact, according to the Brennan Center for Justice, the last Congress introduced more than 150 AI-related bills, and exactly 0 became law. And this Congress hasn't done much better. In fact, just look at social media regulation. You know, it's one of those rare issues with bipartisan unity, and even there, almost nothing has been passed to tighten safety restrictions, especially for kids, or protect privacy.
In Washington, D.C., Atra El-Nashar, thank you. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says Ukraine will not give up territory to help end the nearly 4-year war. Zelensky met with the leaders of Britain, France, and Germany today to discuss the ongoing peace talks with the U.S. and Russia.
I'm skeptical about some of the details which we are seeing in the documents coming from U.S. side, but we have to talk about that. That's why we are here.
President Trump claimed yesterday that Zelensky has not read the U.S. brokered peace proposal. Trump said he believes Russia is fine with it. Russian President Vladimir Putin has not publicly approved the plan. Meanwhile, in the Middle East, after 2 months of on-again, off-again attacks and retaliations inside Gaza, it appears phase 2 of the Israel-Hamas ceasefire agreement is getting closer to being implemented. Over the weekend, a senior Hamas official says the group is ready to talk about storing or laying down its weapons as part of the ceasefire, something they had not been willing to discuss before. Now, although a sticking point does remain, Israel still wants Hamas to completely disarm, while Arab mediators are proposing to freeze Hamas's weapons up to 10 years while the truce remains in effect. Israel also says they need the body of the final hostage taken on October 7th, as per the agreement made on October 10th. A multi-day pre-trial hearing in the United Healthcare CEO murder case continues. Suspected killer Luigi Mangione's lawyers want evidence found in his backpack when he was arrested at a McDonald's in Pennsylvania to be ignored. They argue police searched through it illegally, but a cop testified today that she followed protocol. Body cam footage showed the officer found a fully loaded magazine wrapped in underwear and later found a gun and silencer. Coming up, where millions of Americans are at risk tonight for heavy snow and where flash flooding is likely for the next several days. Then President Trump's immigration crackdown is in full force. A new investigation revealing how we got here. And what former Trump attorney Alina Habba says about her resignation as top federal prosecutor in New Jersey following a court's ruling against her. We're back in 90 seconds. Right now, over 20 million people in the north and east are under winter weather advisories or winter storm warnings or watches. Snow across North Carolina and Virginia is tapering off, including in Lynchburg, Virginia, which you're looking at now. Snow is forecast in the upper Midwest, however, and Great Lakes overnight. Then heavier snow and high winds tomorrow and Wednesday. And in the Northwest, over 9 million people are under flood watches, mostly in Washington and Oregon, where several days of heavy rain are likely. The Department of Homeland Security says that Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker has released more than 1,700 criminal aliens, including convicted and suspected murderers, rapists, and traffickers out of Illinois prisons since January 20th of this year. ICE Director Todd Lyons has sent a letter to the Attorney General in Illinois demanding he keep these individuals arrested on detainer for the safety of the community at large. Now, neither the governor or the state AG have publicly responded, but a 2017 law in Illinois, the Trust Act, limits state law enforcement's cooperation with federal immigration agents and prevents detention on immigration warrants or status. In a video posted to his social media accounts, New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani is telling New Yorkers how to resist ICE agents.
As mayor, I'll protect the rights of every single New Yorker, and that includes the more than 3 million immigrants who call this city their home. But we can all stand up to ICE if you know your rights.
Mamdani's comments coming a week after demonstrators gathered as ICE attempted to detain people on Canal Street near New York's Chinatown, similar to a sweep in October. Following a surprisingly cordial White House meeting with President Trump over 2 weeks ago, the mayor-elect has since promised to protect New York's sanctuary city policies. Meanwhile, border czar Tom Homan has threatened to ramp up immigration enforcement there. Well, the Trump administration's immigration crackdown is often in the headlines, with many wondering, how did we get to this point? A New York Times investigation found much of it stems from the policies of his predecessor, who it turns out was warned multiple times that allowing so many people to enter the country could have a detrimental impact. Here's the National News Desk, Christine Frizzell.
Don't do that to him! The crackdown on illegal immigrants ramping up across the country, with cities like New Orleans and Minneapolis just the latest targets.
We're looking for criminal aliens. We're looking for public safety threats, national security threats, and illegal aliens.
For critics, the tactics have been harsh, the mission misleading, especially in light of new data showing of the 220,000 arrested in the first 9 months of the Trump administration, 75,000, or 1/3, had no criminal records, according to the research group Deportation Data Project. But the Trump administration insists the tactics are necessary because of what happened during the 4 years under President Joe Biden, in which 1 million people are believed to have entered the country illegally.
If you don't have any borders, then you don't have a nation, right? Trump did a better job. I don't like Trump, but we should have a secure border, and it ain't that hard to do. Biden didn't do it.
A new investigation by the New York Times revealing even before he took office, Joe Biden was repeatedly warned that his approach to immigration could prove disastrous and could provoke a political crisis. President Biden's Homeland Security chief often characterized the policy like this.
We are devoted to providing humanitarian relief for those who qualify. It is one of our country's proudest traditions.
That policy quickly broadcast around the world, with hundreds of thousands of people coming each month. Toward the end of his administration, President Joe Biden did crack down on who was allowed to enter the country. But the Times investigation revealed he and his inner circle were waiting for Congress to act, and also worried about alienating the Latino community. Immigration wound up as a top issue in 2024, and Donald Trump even made gains among Latino voters, according to exit polling. I'm Christine Frizzell for the National News Desk.
Texas Congresswoman and progressive firebrand Jasmine Crockett has made it official she will be running for the Democratic nomination for U.S. Senate in Texas next year. Crockett, who has been a vocal and consistent critic of the Trump administration, will be facing off against State Representative James Tallarico, who gained national attention when Texas state Democrats left the state over the summer instead of voting on the new congressional map that is now set to take effect next year. With Crockett joining the race, former Congressman Colin Allred, who ran against Ted Cruz for Senate last year, is dropping from the Democratic primary. Instead, Allred says he will push to make a comeback in the House of Representatives in the newly drawn 33rd district. The new Texas map redrew the state's congressional district, putting as many as 5 democratically held seats in danger of flipping red. Well, cue the bidding war. Paramount has announced its bid to acquire Warner Brothers Discovery, swooping in just days after Netflix announced that $83 billion deal to purchase the media giant. Well, Paramount is offering an all-cash deal valued at $108 billion. Combining with Warner would let Paramount, a Hollywood behemoth, to take on Netflix, already the largest streamer in the world. Warner Brothers Discovery shareholders would be offered $30 per share, and the offer from Paramount encompasses the HBO Max streaming service, the Warner Brothers film production company, and cable channels such as CNN. Netflix deal with Warner Brothers, however, offers a price of $27.75 per share and excluded the cable channels. Government regulators ultimately would have to approve any acquisition. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem was in Tampa today, recognizing and honoring selected agents who did not miss any time during the 6-week government shutdown. As she did last month, Secretary Noem handed out $10,000 checks to 16 agents and said more bonuses are on the way.
As we continue to go through the next month or two, we'll continue to recognize more and more individuals for all that they did. The nominations for these bonus checks hasn't stopped. So there may be more that get recommended, and we'll continue to do what we can to thank them for their service, but let them know that the work that they do matters.
Last week, Illinois Senator Tammy Duckworth called on DHS to give bonuses to all agents who worked during the shutdown, regardless if they missed any time or not. Some TSA agents and flight control coordinators took leave or called out sick during the shutdown, possibly due to the fact that they weren't paid at the time. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy noted that many agents had to take out second jobs. Well, Southwest Airlines no longer has to pay the remaining $11 million of a $140 million fine for thousands of canceled flights during a 2022 winter storm. That money was owed to the Treasury Department as part of a settlement with the Biden administration. The Department of Transportation says it will credit Southwest $11 million to incentivize airlines to improve operations. We have reporters all across the country and your neighborhoods covering the issues that matter to you. We're taking the pulse of America, and we start in Washington state, where reports of dead birds are fueling concerns about bird flu.
Concerns surrounding bird flu after the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife says a dead swan and a dead goose were recently found near Lake Tapps. However, WDFW will not be testing the animals for bird flu, telling us in a statement, given limited resources, WDFW reserves avian influenza testing for large-scale mortalities and is unable to test individual animals.
We are seeing really unprecedented circulation of strains of highly pathogenic avian influenza in wild birds all around the world.
Dr. Peter Rabinowitz studies zoonotic infectious diseases at the University of Washington. He says while the risk to the general public is low, it's still something to keep an eye on.
A message of hope and thanks posted to Facebook this weekend from the West Virginia National Guard alongside Melody Wolf, 24-year-old Andy Wolf's mother.
So Andy is being very active, more alert. Sedation has come off. They're scaling back on his pain medication.
Wolf has been in the hospital ever since the ambush-style shooting on November 26th, 2 blocks north of the White House. In her first public message since her son was shot, Melody says Andy is communicating with her and, quote, surpassing expectations. Suspect Ramanula Lackenwall is accused of shooting Wolf and his sister-in-arms, 20-year-old Sarah Beckstrom, who died the next day.
Our dog has actually just got the title of being the world record holder of the longest tongue on the living dog in the world.
This is Ozzy, and he's my little golden child. He's 4 years old, and somehow he came up with the longest tongue on a living dog.
His mom was interested in applying, so I had 2 nurses, both film and measure, and we measured in 3 different angles and documented each one.
After a few months, we got notification from Mom that they had won the award, and everybody was super excited for them.
Like, I love it. My dog puts smiles on everybody's faces if somebody's having a bad day.
Well, that's a good dog there. All right, coming up, a Supreme Court ruling that could greatly expand President Trump's executive power over agencies. We're back in 90 seconds. Trump's former lawyer, Alina Habba, is officially resigning as top federal prosecutor in New Jersey. Last week, a federal appeals court upheld a decision saying she was unlawfully serving in that position after her interim term ended in the spring. Now, posting on X, she said, "Do not mistake compliance for surrender." Attorney General Pam Bondi also posting on X saying she has accepted Habba's resignation, but also stands by her former U.S. attorney, writing in part, quote, "The Department of Justice will seek further review of this decision, and we are confident it will be reversed." Alina intends to return to lead the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of New Jersey if this occurs. Justices on the Supreme Court could be on the verge of another decision giving a sitting president more executive power. They heard oral arguments Monday in the case of a fired FTC commissioner. National correspondent Matt Gelka reports from Washington.
President Trump tried firing Rebecca Slaughter, a Democratic member of the Independent Federal Trade Commission, back in March as he sought to reshape the government. Lower courts blocked the firing, but an emergency order from the Supreme Court allowed it to go through. The High Court now decides if Trump was within his rights to do it or if the move violated the separation of powers. The ruling could greatly expand his and future presidents' executive power over independent agencies. The court's liberal justices questioned giving more power to a sitting president.
I don't understand why it is that the thought that the president gets to control everything can outweigh Congress's clear authority and duty to protect the people in this way.
A 90-year-old precedent known as Humphrey's executor stands in the way of letting the president fire independent agency heads on a whim. The 1935 ruling also dealt with the FTC, but Chief Justice John Roberts said during oral arguments, a lot has changed in the almost century since.
Humphrey's executor is just a dried husk of whatever people used to think it was. It was addressing an agency that had very little, if any, executive power.
The president has tried to fire multiple people across different sectors of government since he took office back in January. Many firings have hit court roadblocks, with the Supreme Court already issuing some emergency rulings siding with the Trump administration and letting some firings go through.
If I was a betting man, I would say that Humphrey's estate is not going to make it to 91.
I mean, this is indeed a 90-year-old doctrine that helps shape much of the government in terms of independent commissions. But it has long been challenged by people who said, where does that authority come from?
The court's ultimate decision could be more narrow, so it doesn't involve the Federal Reserve. The president has also tried to fire a Democratic member of the Fed's Board of Governors, Lisa Cook. The High Court has her firing case on the docket for January. Reporting in Washington, I'm Matt Gelka for the National News Desk, America's News Now.
Coming up, more bad luck at the Louvre. Hundreds of items that were damaged at the famous museum in Paris right after this. Well, first it was thieves and now water damage. The famous Louvre Museum in Paris has been hit with another headache. According to a Louvre official, a water leak in November damaged upwards of 400 documents and journals in the Egypt department. The museum clarifies that no heritage artifacts were affected. Authorities are still investigating that heist, meanwhile, back from October when hundreds of millions of dollars worth of jewelry was stolen. Thanks for joining us.